Okay, well, thank you for joining us. We're doing a special interview only for lessons learned, computer repair business, lessons learned buyers. And we're joined by the author today, and I'm going to be grilling Dan. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Steve Trebino from Podnuts. We do a computer repair podcast. And, I know Dan. We've talked to him many times. He's been on the show many times. And I recently read his book and honestly was blown away and decided I have to do this interview. The book is awesome, and I want to talk to Dan and get even more questions answered. And I thought you guys would be able to benefit from it highly as well. So let's talk to Dan now and see if we can give you guys a real good grounding, some really great tips, some really great advice on your computer repair business and anything having to do with that. All right, let's get into it. Dan, thank you very much.
Steve?
How are you doing? Thanks very much for doing this with me.
Oh, no problem.
So, Dan, you wrote the book, Computer Repair Business Lessons Learned. Tell us just a little bit about your background and why you are qualified to write a book on computer repair and share your advice here.
Well, background, did 20 years in the military, did communications, which was technology when I was in there, and retired from there, started working as a government contractor, and did everything from system admin to program management. And then we started our own business. And at the time when we started one, there wasn't really that many books out for starting a computer repair business. So everything we did, I always kept pretty good detailed notes. And after a couple of years, I decided, I'd put a book together and try to put it out there for others, and maybe it'd be beneficial to them.
Now, how long have you been doing this?
The computer repair business,
Yeah.
about 6-7 years now.
Awesome. Now, that's one of the things I got from your book is you take notes. You have really good discipline. So as you're taking these notes, what did you start to realize, wow, this is something that I just went through that maybe somebody else won't have to go through if I tell them about it, kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty much, because I used to do a lot of the forums and listservs and things like that, and you'd usually see the same questions that were asked over and over. And 9 out of 10 times, if someone asked a question, say it was something simple like a maintenance contract, others would say, well, I have one, but then when they asked for a copy of it, they'd be told, well, you have to do up your own and have an attorney look it over. None of this is really rocket science. So, it just seemed to me like if someone put something together that could benefit people, I think people would like it. And that's the reason I did it. Yeah.
Well, it's great. I mean, it kind of sucks for me because I had a computer repair business. And then, years after, I start Podnuts and I meet up with guys like you and I read your book and I go, damn, why didn't I read this before?
Right.
It's silly because there actually is so much good stuff in here about what to do to start off. And one of the things that I really like about the book, and I've told you this before, I think, is you really stress doing things right the first time because this way you don't have to do it or correct it in the future, and you kind of set yourself up for expansion. And just doing things right the first time is one of the things that I got out of your book. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that and like why you push that?
Well, I think it's important because, it's easy to do something one time and, see good results about it. But if you don't do it over and over and you're not disciplined about it enough to keep continually doing it, like follow-up phone calls with customers. We've been in business 6-7 years, and we're still doing a follow-up 2-3 days after a job just to make sure the customer's satisfied. Same with newsletters, things like that. It's just those little tedious things that I think people overlook. And then when hard times come, it's pretty much too late to go back and try to correct it. But I firmly believe if you do everything right from the start and you just keep that track going, then you're always going to be successful. But you have to keep doing it.
Yeah. I agree. And that's another thing that, you stress in the book is discipline. And that's one of the things I got out of your book that, honestly, you don't see that in a lot of places. I mean, a lot of guys that even come on my show and talk about their businesses and such, they tell about their tips, there's some marketing stuff, what they did to start their business. But not a lot of them really stress you got to do this every day. You have to have your discipline in. So tell us a little bit about why discipline is important, where you learned how to become so disciplined in this, and what you learned all about discipline. Why is it vital?
Well, I learned it, obviously from 20 years in the Marine Corps, you didn't have much choice. It was pretty much instilled upon you that you were going to have discipline of some sort.
Right.
So I think that just carried over. And, every job I've done, whether it's contracting or starting the business, I tried to, use discipline within it. The same with when we started hiring employees. That's where it really kicked in, where, it's easy to be a free for all, especially once you have employees doing their own things. And if you're not disciplined, then they have no reason to be disciplined. But if you're showing them discipline from day one and you instill it upon them, then, it carries out throughout everything they're doing. And we get compliments daily about our techs that go out in the field. And, that's what we're shooting for. We want them to be as disciplined as we are and just, keep doing everything the right way.
Right. What kind of compliments are people giving him? Like, he was very professional. He was very methodical. Like,
oh yeah, we'll call, like I said, 2-3 days after we do a follow-up phone call. And lately, even a lot of the customers will call us just to say, Mike was at our place, or Opie is who we refer to one tech as. Opie was at our place. We loved him. He was real helpful. He walked us through this. I mean, big kudos all the way around. They just love the techs coming there. And, you can't beat that as a business owner.
Oh, big time. Big time. Now, like we said before, this interview is only for people who bought the book. So I'm making it my job to pick Dan's brain and really bring the goods to you guys. One of the things I wanted to ask Dan was something he touched on a couple minutes ago, is doing follow-up with customers. Not a lot of techs do that. And I think it's a sloppy, kind of lazy way to run their business. And hey, I'm a hypocrite because I did not do hardly any follow-up at all on my business. Why did you start doing that, Dan, and what kind of benefits can somebody get from following up with their customers, and what methods do you use to do it?
It was one of those things from day one. We had made a list of things, me and the wife, when we started the business, the way we wanted to do things, what we wanted to offer. And one of the things we always put was a list for customers, how we wanted to treat them, what we wanted to do, and following up was one of those things. So from day one, when I ran the business out of my house, I do the jobs. Usually 2 days later, the wife would call the customer, see what, make sure they're happy, no issues. And from that day forward, we just kept doing it. Either she would call or I'd call. And our techs never call. It's always one of us that calls.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's good, because, the tech might have did the job and might not mention something that maybe he didn't want known. But so you
Right.
do all the follow-up calls, you and your wife. So it's like an external person who wasn't there.
Right.
Cool. What kind of results do you get from that? I mean, is it how beneficial is it?
Usually pretty beneficial. I mean, there's been a few times maybe where a tech may have missed something, and I think the person really appreciated that we called, because for some unknown reason they weren't upset about it. It may have been something they didn't mention, but I think they really appreciated the fact that we called and we sent the tech right back to them and just resolved the issue. And of course, we didn't charge them. And, whether it was the same issue or not, the bottom line was, customer satisfaction. That's all we cared about. And like I said, it's ones and twos. And to me, it's well worth the trade-off to do that.
Yeah, big time. You actually mentioned something in your book about once you do these follow-up calls, you talk to a customer who actually, in reality, may have had a problem but didn't want to call back. And, you would think, right. And you mentioned, you would think people who have problems, they would just call you back if they had a problem. I experienced it in my shop. For whatever reason, I talked to a customer again, and they said, oh, by the way, last time you were here, this didn't really work. So you're right. Customers don't call you back, even if they have a problem. For whatever reason, I don't know, they don't want to confront it, or they think it's rude, or whatever is going through their mind. So you are just kind of nipping it in the bud by doing it first.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to be first about it. I mean, there's nothing worse than if you were to wait, say 3-4 days and that customer called you. One, it looks like you don't care. And, it could just drag out, it could be a week or more before something gets resolved, especially if you're not in the shop that day.
Right.
So, you got to do, be proactive about it.
Right. Or they may even go somewhere else if they're not happy and they just don't want to deal with you anymore. But I think people would be scared. I mean, I know people I don't want to have to call him and tell him that he messed this up. They might not be, they might be afraid of the consequence, or I might get mad at them or something like that. So.
Right.
Yeah, it's really good doing follow-up. Another thing you're really disciplined about is scheduling and creating a schedule and a plan for the future. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What you mentioned in the book, and anything you have to expand on that?
Yeah, I actually started that when I was in the military on recruiting duty. You had to do a daily planner, they called it, but you had to do it for 2 weeks out. So you would do this planner, and then you would have someone who was supposedly smarter than you. They'd look at your planner and basically say, you're going to be successful, or you better change your plan because you're not going to make it out here.
Right.
And you do that every single week, every 2 weeks, you sit down with a person and do that. And after a while, you know, typically 99% of the guys would blow it off and not care about it. But I was at 1% that realized someone must think it works. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it.
Right.
So I started doing it. And, rather successful out there doing that. So just kept doing that with the business. We actually try to do a monthly planner, put on there different things like, on Tuesdays, do website maintenance. On Wednesdays, do SEO. On Thursdays, do business marketing. And we have the basics on the calendar, and then other things you can fill in as you go. Like if you have maintenance contracts, what day of the week you do contracts. I mean, regular jobs that come in, or when people call you, obviously that would override what you have going. But if you at least have a baseline, it gives you something to go by. So you don't walk in your shop at 8, 9 in the morning and you pretty much sit there thinking, what's my plan for today? Because by then it's too late.
Yeah, it seems like it's something that would keep you in action and also prevent in the future occurrences of, missing something or not getting something done. What have you
it's easy
found?
to overlook it.
Yeah, what have you found from keeping that in that you've avoided like a lot of emergencies and stuff like that?
Yeah, a lot of emergencies, a lot of, like I said, when you have the business contract's important because, they expect you to come by, expect you to see them, or they may call and say they want to see you a week, 2 weeks out. If you don't make good notes about it, you don't have it on your schedule, you may unfortunately overlook it for some reason, which, things do happen, but the bottom line is a business customer isn't going to care what happened. They wanted you there and you dropped the ball on it. So, it's just like newsletters. If you don't put it on your calendar to do it, easy to overlook it 1 month and then say, well, I'll do it next month. But then 1 month becomes 2 months and you end up not doing it.
Cool. Do you have any programs that you use for that, or do you write it on paper, or what do you recommend people do for that? Because that's a tough thing to keep in for somebody who's not grooved into that and doesn't have that discipline.
Yeah, I changed it up a lot. I mean, I started off with like an Excel spreadsheet. I'd put the little dates on there, this and that. I mean, 99% of the time, it seems like stickies are my go-to. But I also use my iPhone. I have a nice app on there that I can put things in, which I think that's more helpful because, no matter where I am on the road, I can always, access it. And that way I can sit down and look at it and know what my plan is. But then I can print it out too so everyone in the shop knows what it is.
What app is that? Do you know what it is?
It's Awesome Note.
Okay, cool.
Awesome Note is the name of it. Yeah, it's a pay version, but it's like, $3, but with all the functions it gives you, it's well worth it.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's great. It's like I said, discipline seems like really what you're instilling, and it has been one of your main things that helped you with your business. All right, tell us some of your best startup tips for guys. I mean, you've been in the business a while. What are you seeing out there? If you had to just lay it out right now, what's the best thing somebody could do to start up their business from scratch or whatever? Lay it on us.
I think the most important thing is you have to have your documentation together, have a capabilities letter for your business, know what services you're going to provide. Don't just go and think, you're going to do virus and spyware. Have a nice letter done up with services to, complement the capabilities letter.
Now, what's on a capabilities letter? What does that entail?
You can put on there, your business name, whatever, and then you put, founded in whenever, a little about you, a little about the business. You can put on there the services you provide. It's like a mini bio of your business, basically, but you call it a capabilities letter because most businesses know what to mean. The word capabilities letter, they're going to know what that means.
Gotcha.
So if you approach a business, that's easy to hand that off. They're going to understand it. But I think starting up, your number one thing is if you have those documents and then start hitting businesses daily. And that's why I think most people fear that. Yeah. And I think the reason is a lot of guys are good techs, amazing techs out there. But business-wise, they don't see the big picture. Right. And I think in this industry, if you're not getting the business contracts, if you're not approaching those people, doing Chamber of Commerce or BNIs, anything to get in front of business people, your business is going to suffer from it because you can only do so much when it comes to, virus, spyware, laptop jacks, things like that. You got to be well-rounded, and the businesses are where that money is.
Really? Yeah, see,
Oh yeah.
a lot of guys I think are sticking with residential. I know I did. It's much easier to confront because you deal with it on a personal level.
Right.
So what do you do for businesses? You just kind of suck it up and go door to door?
Yeah, I go door to door. I have no problem walking into a business, taking a business card, capabilities letter. We have actually a little package that does a capabilities letter, has our services on there, and then I have a little proactive monitoring thing because we do 24/7 monitoring. And I'll put that like in a nice little folder and give it to them with a business card. 9 out of 10 times you're going to hit a receptionist, but if you ask for the person in charge, typically they may say they're busy or whatever. That person that's greeting you at the door, typically that's the person that's going to make the phone call to, get someone in there to fix their computer, because whoever's working there is going to tell them they have an issue. So if you make a good impression on that person, 99% of the time they're going to call you because, you made a good impression. Plus you took the time to talk to them and you brought your documentation with you when you went there.
Oh, man. That's a killer tip, because now you're basically saying you don't have to confront the boss. Confronting a nice receptionist is much easier, and they're might be the decision maker anyway. So it's easier than you think, is what you're saying.
It is, and usually I've been in a lot of businesses where the owner will walk out when I'm midstream talking to the receptionist, and even though I'll acknowledge the owner, shake their hand, my conversation's still going to be with the receptionist, but I'll include the owner only because in my eyes, it's that receptionist that we get the calls from. So I'm going to make a good impression on that person.
Wow, that's a great tip.
Yep.
It makes it easier to confront the whole thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you have as part of the documents with the book, you have a capabilities letter. Do you have some of the other stuff you just mentioned that people could check out, an example one like that you have?
Yeah, I think there's actually a couple capabilities letter, the services, the proactive monitoring, because a lot of companies like that. There's an example in there what that looks like. Everything you would need to take to a business, I'm giving in the documentation you can download.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, having that included with the book. Because people, it's one thing to say capabilities letter or the maintenance contract or warranties and stuff, but to see it in writing is a really cool thing to give. Now,
yeah, it's pretty easy. You just got to tweak it, put your info on it, and then print it out, and it's yours. Basically, services are services for most businesses.
Right.
But if we're doing something off the wall, you're not. Then take one line out, and you're still good to go.
Right. No, that's great. Now, what about this proactive maintenance? What is that, and who do you use for that, and how do you include that in your thing?
We use Proactive Watch. There's a bunch out there. You can use, GFI Max or, different ones like that. But we'll show them in there. It'll show like a nice little, people like graphs. So we'll put a little picture of a graph in there. It says 24/7 with a pie chart or something, problems that arose or whatever. And it just shows them and it explains it. How we get notices if there's a problem with their servers, with their PCs, we'll get instant messages saying that, and it shows how we can be proactive about it. And I think they like knowing that when most employees leave on the weekend, if there's a problem, we're going to be aware of it before they are.
Right.
And Monday morning, they're not coming into a possible, work outage because of a big issue.
Right. Now, that does seem cool for a business. How is profit on that? What kind of plans do you set up with that? Like you say, you use a separate company for that?
Yeah. Use a Proactive Watch. You can use GFI Max. The markup is almost tenfold. It's so cheap to implement that, it might on a whole network, a dozen computers, a server, something like that, it might cost you $25. To me, $25 is nothing, knowing that that's a big seller in the business community.
Yeah. Now, if something that goes wrong, who handles the problem? The company that you're paying, or that company just alerts you guys and then you go out and fix it?
Yeah, we just set it up with different alerts, and then we get the alerts and we resolve it. There are companies out there that you can actually have them resolve it, but that's going to cost you more, and I'm not sure why someone would want to do that.
Right. I guess maybe they don't know how to fix it themselves.
That could be it.
Well, that's a great tip, too. All right. Customer service. You're very strong about that, and I fully agree with that, because that's, in so many businesses these days, that's the missing element that I think will break you as a business. What can you tell us about customer service and what people should be alert about and how they should take care of it?
I'm big on taking care of the customer, whether it's our fault or their fault. If it comes down to something like that, bottom line to me is it's going to be our fault. I mean, I've had some texts in the past that, maybe they missed something or whatever, or they didn't miss something, but the customer swears they did. 99.99% of the time, I'm siding with the customer. I don't care if it was their fault or not. I'm going to resolve it and make that customer happy, because to me, it's not worth losing a customer. It's not worth having them tell other people they were displeased. So to me, you basically suck it up, make it right for the customer, and just go on about your way.
Yeah, I agree. You have to. I mean, it's not a matter of pride or who's right and wrong. It's a matter of staying in business. And I think that's how you have to handle it.
Yeah.
And like you said in the book, it's easier for bad news to travel through word of mouth than good news. It tends to travel faster. And so you want to keep your customers happy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And like I said, when you get texts, you find you have to really stay on them. It's a lot more difficult because, they're pretty positive in what they're doing. They're confident in what they're doing. And, no one likes admitting that, something's their responsibility when it's not, or a mistake was made and it's not their fault. And we try telling them, it doesn't matter whose fault it was. We're going to make it right. The customer's going to be happy, and that's it.
Yeah. That's a good way to go. That's a good way to go. And it is good to acknowledge to your text, like, look, you probably didn't make this error, but we just go with it. Go with it on this one. You know what I mean? Suck it up.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What else about customer service you think is important?
Well, I think when you have the maintenance contracts, it's kind of easy to get lax about them. And, they're sending checks to us every single month. So if we're supposed to go by there once a week, you pretty much got to go by there once a week, whether there's issues or not, whether it's, inconvenient for you for some unknown reason, something came up. Bottom line is you got to go by and see those customers, because, quarterly, semi-annually, whatever it is, when a business gets together and they decide who they don't need to keep around, what services they can cut, one of the things they're obviously going to look at is what kind of computer problems we have, how proactive have they been, and, God forbid you miss that week that they're doing that meeting because you're going to stand out. So business contracts, I mean, big on customer service with those people.
So you send out a check on a maintenance contract every week, no matter if there's something wrong or not?
No, 90% of the time, if there's not a problem, the tech won't go. I'll go, because, I'm the one who usually got the maintenance contract. The owners know who I am. Everyone that works there knows who I am. Plus, if I go, it leaves my guys in the shop to do other work that can be done. So, because usually when you go in those businesses, you're only going there to do some FaceTime, talk to them. Maybe they have a little problem you need to take care of. But I think more importantly, you're showing them that you're genuinely concerned about their issues.
So you send somebody out once a week. You
Correct.
or wow, that's great. They probably love that.
Oh, they do. They do. Even like I said, if they have nothing going wrong, just the fact that you come in there, I think they appreciate it.
And it keeps you fresh in their mind.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's a lot, it helps us a lot with referrals too. The more they see you, the more they're going to refer you.
Right. Or you might be there when like a business associate of theirs walks in the door or something like that. You've probably had situations like that.
Oh, yeah. That's happened before.
Like, this is our computer guy. Oh, hi.
Yep.
Nice to meet you. Oh,
yep.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I picture you doing that, Dan. Getting in those conversations. Okay. All right. Well, you cover a lot in the book about marketing. Lay on us some of your best marketing tips right now. I mean, the times are changing. I mean, there's Google AdWords at its high point. Now, you got social media. What are you guys doing now and what's working and what do you like?
Well, with me, marketing is really just a compilation of everything. I mean, we tried to start it from day one where, do the normal Yellow Book, Verizon, that type of thing. Then start doing Craigslist ads. I know people hate Craigslist, but, one, it helps with SEO. It's well worth doing whether you get work or not. But LinkedIn, Facebook, BNI groups, Chamber of Commerce. I think the big thing to get out of it is you have to do everything. You can't just try to hone in on one or two items and think that's going to help you or that's going to be your go-to marketing. Because as everyone's seen with, like you said, with AdWords or things like that, from month to month, the marketing realm is changing and you can't just bank one thing. You have to do everything. So I think if you have your plan, if you have, 10, 12 things you're doing on there on a religious basis, that's going to keep you consistent and that's going to keep your business profitable. If you try guessing what the next big thing is and that's what you're going to push for marketing, you're going to slack on everything else you're doing and it's going to catch up with you. And then it's too late to get it going again.
Yeah, especially if you're wrong about it.
Right, right. And you just can't do it that way. It's just not the way to do it. If, there's a lot of people with the whole social media, social media is great. There's a million people doing it. If you're going to run your business and base it off social media, who knows, 3 months from now, your business is going to start failing because that's just not going to bring in the profits. So if you weren't doing, Craigslist, or you weren't doing Chamber of Commerce or BNI, or just going to little get together, meetings in your community, that's where your consistent's going to be, because those people are always going to be there.
So you're saying do a little bit of everything, but focus in on that the community stuff, the BNI, which that is, what is it? Something networking group?
Yeah, Business Network and Invitational. I actually don't belong to the one here. I know these guys. I've dealt with them. I belong to the Chamber of Commerce only because BNI is too regimented for me, and I'm not really into that whole thing. But the BNIs. But I also have a good core group of different business owners I know that own landscaping businesses, things like that. And we'll get together and have coffee. There might be a dozen of us there, but I've got a ton of work from them guys. Got a ton of referrals from them guys. But by the same token, if I'm out on a job and we just had it last week. I was at home and the person started saying they wanted an irrigation system put in. Well, I knew exactly who to call because I have coffee with that guy.
Right.
And the homeowner loved it just for the sheer fact they were new in the community and they had no idea who to call. So, if you keep those contacts in the community, not only do you get work from them, but you'll get work outside of them too.
Now, how do you meet these guys in your community? How did you meet this core group of guys?
It's amazing how many people hang out at little restaurants or little McDonald's, and I drink coffee, so I got no problem shooting in them places. And after you go in them once or twice, you usually see the same people in there, and it gives you an idea who they are. So it's pretty easy to pick them out.
Wow, yeah, it sounds like definitely you have this skill of not having a problem getting in conversations with people, and that seems like it's a good asset for you.
Yeah, I think you have to, and that's the big thing with I think I even said in the book. I mean, anyone could start a computer repair business because I know a bunch of guys that are outstanding techs, but they're pretty poor at business itself, and I think part of that is because of the whole interaction with people. I could care less about walking up to anyone and start talking to them. 9 out of 10 times, it's going to work out in your favor if you just get over that 1/10%, of fear that you may have of doing it. It's well worth it, and you're going to benefit from it.
All right. Well, here's the question then, because you're right. Probably most guys aren't like that. What would you suggest to break them in, to break the ice, to get them grooved into doing something like that? Is there any type of drilling or anything that they could do, or what?
No, and I actually had a business partner once, and he'd actually stand there in front of the mirror and go over it, and no matter how many times he did it, he was terrible at it. So I'd actually drag him with me, and when we'd walk up to people, I would start walking to the right or to the left, and I'd basically leave him standing there. So his choice was say something or look real awkward just standing there not doing anything. So he just introduced himself, say, hey, I'm own Computer Medics, my name's Jared, blah, 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 and people start talking.
Yeah.
If you're not trying to push something, I think that's the big thing. Too many people are out there trying to push, and most business owners don't really like that. They want to know who you are before they trust you enough to do stuff with you.
Right. I think it's definitely worth it to take that time and just get to know people before you even want to pitch anything.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It could take 6 months, a year down the road, but the bottom line is if you're in it for the long haul, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
I've had people I met, a year ago call me and say, hey, I met you a year ago, and, lo and behold, now they need something.
Right. Yeah, guys, take Dan's advice on this one, but you're gonna have to get through that fear somehow. I mean, maybe you could even just go out and stand in one of these places and just observe the area and try to take it all in and go in take baby steps. But I think it's a really good idea to, like you said, to just start talking to people. All right, any other marketing tips you can think of now, Dan? Like anything current you guys are doing, or did you kind of lay it all out there?
Yeah, that's pretty much, the big ones.
Okay.
I think one of the big misbeliefs that people, the Craigslist thing, people need to really look at that and don't pay attention to these people that are telling you, I get cheap people that call me from Craigslist.
Right.
I get this, I get that. we've got 2 business contracts that bring in, I think it's, 10 to 15,000 a year, and they were from Craigslist.
Really?
So to me, I could care less about the people that call and, they don't want to pay our rate. We don't do the work. But the bottom line is it's free advertising. You can't pass it up.
Right. Yeah. I remember you reading that in your book, and you also said it's free, number one. Mm-hmm. You may get jobs off of it. Number two, worst case scenario, it helps you with SEO because Google's always indexing Craigslist. So.
Oh yeah, it picks up Craigslist real easily.
Yeah, good one. All right, you talk in the book about passion. I actually talk about this in my How to Podcast video, so I know where you're coming from. Passion. Why is it important? What do you have to say about passion? How does it fit in?
Well, I think if you don't have the passion to actually do the work and run your business, it shows in pretty much everything you do, because you're not going to have any of the other things that I say you need, like the discipline, things like that, because if you don't have a passion for it, there's really no reason to put any effort into anything else. And I think one of those is, which I'm throwing myself under the bus here, one of my techs actually went on a job last week, and is a business customer too. And they're real good people. And I went there, and the lady said to me, your guy was over here yesterday. I went the following day, and I'm like, yeah. She goes, I'm not sure if he was feeling good. I said, why? She goes, I don't know, he just looked like he was tired. And I couldn't get back to the shop fast enough. I was so tweaked that happened.
Oh, man.
So I went back there, and I said to him, what are you doing, this and that? And then he came up with the excuse, well, that night I went out, or, bottom line, I could care less. And the problem is, his passion obviously isn't going to be the same as mine. He's a tech. He works for me. He doesn't own the business. He has no vested interest in the business. So the passion level is going to be a lot different. But I've informed him, obviously, that his passion better be up there in the same level as mine, or else, I'm sure there's other jobs out there. But
enforced passion.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have passion to do this. Even now, 6-7 years later, when I go to a house call, to me, it's like house call number one. I enjoy meeting the people. I enjoy doing the work, and I'm passionate about it. And it shows. And 99% of the time, when they find out the owners that are doing the work, I think they like that even better.
Oh, yeah.
That you went out there and did it.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, and for a customer to originate to you that they noticed an employee looked tired, it's not a good scene.
No,
but
not at all.
It's true with any field. If you don't have the passion, you're not going to do a good job. It's going to come through that way. So I'm with you. So keep doing it as long as you have the passion. Is your tip.
Yeah. And if you don't quit, there's a ton of jobs out there. Go get a job somewhere, and
right.
Do good at that.
Right. All right. Cool. Another thing you talked. Oh wait, it's something you just mentioned in the book too. It's when you brought up a good point. These guys, the people you hire, and we're going to talk about hiring guys in a second. I think you said it a couple times. They're never going to put as much attention on your business as you are, because it's your business. So don't expect that they're going to care as much about your business as you do. And then you say there are some gems of employees that you find, but just don't have that expectation.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, they're not going to have the same passion, discipline, nothing you have that you bring to the business. There's no reason you should expect them to have it.
Right. Yeah, that was pretty good. Let's talk about parts, because you do a chapter on computer parts, where to get them, what you recommend. What's your procedure for that? Where do you get parts, and how do you stock them? That whole subject.
Most of the parts we did the D&H thing for a while, and some other ones where you get the reseller thing and everything.
What's a D&H?
I don't even know what they stand for. They're out of Pennsylvania. It's a big distributor.
Okay.
But you can become a reseller like Lenovo's through them, different things like that. But most of those big places you get those things, to me, the prices that you're going to get it for really aren't that great. So usually we just scour the web for good prices, whether it's from Newegg, things like that,
right.
or
Micro Center?
Geeks.
Oh, you said geeks.com?
Yeah, geeks.com. Micro Center is convenient because that's right up the road from where we live. So we'll just go up there with a shopping cart and just fill up. But usually you just have to really look for good deals and, know what you're going to use, because you see a lot of guys saying about, inventory. You don't need that big of an inventory typically, because most people aren't coming to you to buy, the mainstay items. They're usually going to go somewhere else. For me, it's more having an inventory for me to have, hard drives, memory, video cards, things like that. But I'm not going to go up there and buy, 120 mice, because no one's going to come in and buy that many mice from me. So I could care less about them.
Right.
But if you can get a good price on hard drives and things that you know that you can use, or you know that you can use on customers' computers, that's what you got to do.
I gotcha. So that I kind of did the same thing. I looked for deals, and when I noticed good deals, I either made a mental note or I actually bought it right there on the spot. But so you don't stock up on tons of things you don't need. Obviously, you just kind of get it as you go, get a little bit here and there, but just keep your eyes peeled for good deals, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Always look for the good deals, and most of the vendors will sign up for the newsletters that they send out, whether daily or weekly, because that's typically where you're going to find the best deals, and just snatch them when they come out. Because, like I said, you're never going to have an inventory of 50,000 in your,
Right.
some people might, but 9 out of 10 business owners aren't going to need that kind of inventory on hand.
Right. So you do sign up with some kind of vendors.
Oh yeah.
And they send out newsletters, so you just kind of like get their ad and look about who has the best deal for this on that week or something like that.
Right. If they send out something saying they got a special on, terabyte hard drives, and, if you can pick up 10 of them, if you have the money for it, pick up 10 or 20 right then, because you're going to go through them.
Right.
Same with the memory. Just pick it up as you can.
Gotcha. Good advice. Thanks. All right. You also have a chapter on web design. Now let's talk about having web design and websites, and how do you fit that into your business?
Well, I think a lot of that comes from if you plan on doing more than the virus spyware, dealing with businesses, you want to be well-rounded. Not only do you want to do the basic stuff for them, you want to be able to do the maintenance to their computers. But 9 out of 10 businesses are going to have a website. If they don't have a website, they should have a website, and you can tell them why. So if you can offer that service, that's just one more thing you can offer to them, and they don't have to go outside of you to get it. And usually the drawback I hear from most people is, I'm not good at web design. I don't understand web design. That's when you need to reach out, among other, business owners or, different sites where you can go and find someone, make a good rapport with them, establish a connection, have them do the work for you, but it's still you offering the product to that person.
Now, what do you recommend for websites if somebody really doesn't want to do it or knows that they can't?
I mean, as far as finding someone?
Yeah, what any companies in particular, or where should they go to find someone? Yeah.
I know people are going to hate me for it, but bottom line is I'll deal with anyone in any country that I like. So that's the way I live. And, I hooked up with a couple guys in India probably when I started my business day one. I've known them from day one. We talk all the time. I've never met them in person, but to me, they're good people. The way they run their business, I like. They're always in communication with me. If I need something done, it's done ASAP. And, to me, it's a win-win situation. I pay them. They do the product I need if I don't have time for it, and the customer's happy.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask for. I mean, you can do it internally, locally, in your community. You can probably find someone also, but, I find a lot of times with the web people in a community, things like that, they don't want to deal with a middle person. They want to be the one to talk to that business owner, and I'm not turning over a business owner to anyone if I can, produce the product myself.
Right. Good point. So did you find like these kind of places like a site like Elance or Rent-A-Coder or places like that?
I tried those places. I didn't like, there was another, I think Freelancer was the biggie, but usually Digital Point.
Okay.
Go to forums.digitalpoint.com and put out their generic, I need a basic 5-page website. Send me, a private message with examples of what you've done. Are you on Google Talk? Are you on, Google Plus now? Are you on this? That way you have a way, if you can communicate with these people, and just go through and weed them out and see who sounds like they can do the work that you're looking for.
And the prices are usually good on that site?
Yeah, I mean, you could conceivably get a website done from any of them guys in, the $250 range for a maxed out site.
Damn, that's really good. Yeah. That's really good. There you go. All right, now you said if a company doesn't have a website, you have to tell them why they need one. What would you say to them? What would be your patter?
Well, I wouldn't say anything because I'd actually print out the document I provide everyone that tells them why they need a website.
Okay.
But it actually even has stats on there about how many people have one, how many people look for one. I mean, for me, it's an easy because I have a lot of people work in D.C. and a lot of people that live in this area work in D.C. So I'll tell business owners that 9 out of 10 times people are going to work, and that's when they're going to look for the plumber, the carpenter, wherever they need someone for, they're going to do it on their time at work. They're going to pull it up on Google, look in Yahoo, and try to find someone locally. If you don't have a website, well, you're taking yourself out of the mix right there because you're not being, available to these people when they're looking for you.
Right.
So it's a pretty easy sell in this area, but I think it's the same for anywhere. If you go in there and show them the letter that we provide you and just give them some examples, print out a search for that type of business, which I've done before. I've walked into a plumbing business, and I've walked in with a search results from Google, and they're not on there. And I show them the other businesses that are, and they know who their competition is. So it really works well doing that.
Wow, it's good stuff. I agree that would be effective too.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's get into a couple more subjects here. Hiring staff. Now, you have staff. How many people do you have working for you?
3.
And how's that going for you?
It's a chore.
What can you tell us about, and any tips you give about hiring people?
I probably do hiring the craziest out of other people that I've seen doing it. 9 out of 10 times you get the resume, that's great. But I also live in Virginia that's at will employment. So you can pretty much hire someone and fire them on a whim. There's nothing holding you to keeping the person, which is nice.
Right.
So, we get the resume, go over it, they come in. I think the wife actually usually asks more technical questions than me. I want to know what they're like personality-wise, how they deal with situations, and, just talk to them about what their interests are and things like that. I want to know I can get a rapport going with this person, because if I can't do that, they're not going to be able to do it with a customer. And, the tech skills, typically they're going to have them. Otherwise, they won't come for the interview. So you're going to sort of hope that's the case. But it's the people skills that I'm more concerned with that I want to make sure they have.
That's good. You want to hire good guys. Where do you put out the where do you go fishing for new people? Where do you put out the lines, and where do you advertise?
Craigslist.
Really?
Everyone looks on Craigslist for a job. I mean, every tech we've got, we did that way. Except my one guy that does the DC area, I actually I did a search on Craigslist for businesses in DC and found his business and hired him that way because he did computer repair.
So you went searching on Craigslist for computer repair businesses looking for a tech to hire?
Yeah, I was looking for another company that's in DC.
Oh.
And I ran across this guy who had a business, and I met him a couple of times, started talking to him. And the big thing with that one was the trust issue because, he is in DC. I'm not in DC. Harder for me to see that customer. And I don't want to send someone to that customer that this person's going to take from me. So that was the big problem with getting someone for that area. But once I got this guy, it was a no-brainer because he's like above and beyond as far as trustworthy goes.
Wow. So you have you have a branch of your office in DC then?
Correct.
Gotcha. And it's under your name and everything, or?
Yeah, he works for me, so when he goes, he's working for, Computer Medics, Mike from Computer Medics, and that's how the work gets done.
Wow. Yeah, that must be a little stressful for you not being close to that area and having to trust somebody else, especially the way you are where you want to actually check up on your guys.
Yeah, but it all works out good, especially if you get the right person, and plus if you do that 2-3 day follow up with the customer, so you never have to worry about it, and that's what we do all the time.
Right. Good point. Okay, so you put ads out on Craigslist. What do you say in your ads?
Looking for a tech, local computer store, have basics. I'll put on there like A+, Net+, but I really could care less if they have those certs or not. But experience, and then I'll put down different things like, virus removal, spyware, server maintenance, things like that. And just a little basics. Like I said, I really don't care what they have until I meet them anyway. They can have, I've interviewed guys that have, MCSEs, and I could care less. They're not the type of people I'm looking for.
Right.
So, I got a guy now who's, he actually used to be a Staples tech, real proficient, and he's a people person. I mean, a great guy. And I got another guy who, not as skilled as him because he's, kind of new in the industry, but he did 2 years in the Votech school. And I'm pretty close with the instructors over there, and they recommended the kid. So whether I wanted to hire him or not, it was a good deal for me because the Votech school refers a lot of work to me. And the kid's great. People love the kid, and he's still a learner in progress, but he picks up easy, and he's a hard worker, and that's all you can ask for.
I agree. I mean, experience is one thing, but if you got a good, solid, somebody you could trust who could learn quickly, I mean, a lot of stuff you learn on the fly anyway in this business, so that's a good deal.
Yeah, that's definitely when you get the employees. You got. I called today. I was actually in Pennsylvania on my way back, and I knew we had some things lined up today. I called him, and before I could even talk to him, he started reciting off to me a list of things that he had done, which was everything that had to be done from our list from today. So it was great.
Oh,
it was great.
That
Yeah,
sounds awesome. Sounds like you have good people.
yeah.
Now, how's maintenance of your employees? What do you do to keep things in line? And do you have any tips as far as that, like running guys? How do you run them?
Well, I mean, daily we try to talk at least once a day. Even though if I'm not there, I'm going to call them, or somehow we're going to talk. Usually on Fridays is the day I'm there, and we'll do lunch together. We'll go somewhere or whatever, and I think you just have to keep them. One, they have to be happy. Otherwise, they get stagnant in what they're doing.
Right.
Same with the maintenance stuff. A lot of them don't have the server, type of work experience or other things that I've done. But I want them to go with me if I'm going to do something like that, one, so they get the hands-on, and I think it keeps it fresh for them, and, they like learning, so it's a win-win. And as long as obviously you got to pay them well, but I think if you respect them, pay them well, and take care of them, it works out for everyone.
Yeah, I agree, man. That sounds like really great advice. All right. Should somebody get a storefront, or should they work out of home, and when should they switch from one to the other, or should they ever?
Well, I think you can actually do it out at home and be successful at it depending on where you're at. I know in the area I'm at, if you don't have a storefront, I think it hurts a business, especially when it comes to businesses, because they typically want to know there's a storefront. They don't want to think that you're working out of your house for some reason. But you can also overcome that when you talk to people. I mean, it all depends on how you present yourself. If you just tell them you don't have a storefront and you give them a reason like A, B, and C why you don't deal with a storefront, cut costs, cut overhead, saves the potential business customer money because you're not having to pay for those things. It can work to your advantage that way. But I also think once you have a storefront, it establishes you as, bigger than you really even are. And that can work out to your advantage too.
Right. I personally enjoyed having the storefront. I mean, there's a lot of benefits, and like you said, it gives you like this legitimacy, like you are a business now, and people don't mind taking their stuff to you because you're a store. That's where people take their things, to stores, not to people's houses. So it was if you're a mobile technician, it's a great place to start working out at home. I mean, it gets your feet on the ground, gets you into the business, gets you learning and moving, and then I think it's a good thing to graduate up to. I recommend it, and you talk about it too in the book, if you have a good location. What do you think about locations?
I think that's the number one thing, like you just said. If you're going to, a lot of people jump the gun, I think, on getting a storefront or office space. And I've known some guys, I went to their business, they're on the fourth floor of a building. To me, they might as well sat in a garage. It makes no sense to me. But they were so adamant about getting a storefront or an office location, they bit the bullet and took what they could afford.
Right.
To me, if you can't afford it, if you really can't justify in your mind why you're going to do it, there's no reason to do it. Wait until you're ready to do it, until you get one or two business contracts and you have that guaranteed revenue coming in every month, and then branch out and do the storefront. But just doing it because you think you have to do it, typically you're going to fail because it's more expense than you imagined.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about location. And you're right. It's if you go like on a secluded office somewhere, you might as well stay at home.
Right. There's no reason for it. People can't find you. They can't drive by and see you.
Right.
Why be there?
Right. Good point. There are gems, though. At least there was in my area. If you look around, you might find a cheap place. I got really, I want to say lucky, but I think there's places like this all over the place where I was in the front office of a 4-office building with nobody else. I was the only person, only tenant in this building. So all the other 4 offices were vacant. That gave me the whole storefront and the first office, and I was paying like $350 a month, and it was a great location. So just really, when you're ready, drive up and down the streets, look for those for rent signs, and meet these landlords that just want to get this thing rented, and you could find some good deals. They're out there.
Oh, you can, and especially with the economy the way it is now, and the big thing is I would never sign a year lease, especially in today's economy. Typically, they're going to want to lease it no matter what, and if you can get in, tell them you'll give them a 90-day notice, something like that. The bottom line is they get you in as a tenant. If you succeed and you're doing well, you're going to stay there, which benefits them. But if you're not, and you're signed into a year lease, it's going to crush you when it comes to paying that money, and you can't afford it. And I find a lot of them are pretty good about taking you up on that. I mean, I've been at my place probably 4 years now, and even to this day, I have a 90-day I can terminate, within 90 days.
That's a good point. Especially if you go in there as the customer with that knowledge, or the tenant with that knowledge, because they might just try to hit you with the year lease.
Oh, and typically they're gonna want a year because they want to lock you in so they don't have to deal with it.
Right.
But in my eyes, it's well for them. You're the guy who's gonna give them money.
Good one. All right, last thing I want to talk to you about is franchises. We don't talk about this too much, but in your book you talked about there's franchises out there. Should you become part of a franchise, or should you go out on your own? And you went with franchise, and it's worked out really well for you. What do you suggest when people are looking for this, and what do you think they should do?
Well, I think you need to get a hold of all the franchises and actually talk to them. And I'm not sure where you're getting the part where it's worked out well for me. Mine,
you're still in business, okay?
Yeah, but I don't contribute it to my franchise one bit. My franchise hasn't done a thing to put money in my pocket.
Okay.
And I could care less about calling them out, because bottom line is, oh well. And
wait, you did say that at least I'll say one thing in their benefit, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. At least there's other franchise owners that you have this network with that you can talk to.
Yeah.
But we have pod nuts here, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I got pod nuts. That's what I was going to say. Big deal. And I don't want to talk to the guys in my franchise anyway.
All right, well, then give us your advice then.
I mean, there's franchises out there that I think are probably pretty good, but you need to talk to them, and you really need to look at what you're going to benefit from the franchise. I mean, I had a guy locally here, Friendly Computers. That's a big franchise, well-known name. The guy was retired military, so I knew him, but he went out of business within a year. And what crushed him is paying the royalties and things like that. His business was doing bad, like a lot of businesses were. But bottom line, the franchise didn't care. They wanted their royalties, and it didn't matter what his business was doing.
Wow.
And most franchises, you are going to pay royalties, and you're going to have your upfront fees, things like that. And you have to really look and see, is that name going to get you something, or are they offering you enough to put you into their franchise that makes it worthwhile? Because a lot of the things you can get from, the forums of Podnuts or whatever, or talking to other people, and it may not really be worth the initial investment to get into the franchise.
Gotcha. Well, that is good to know. So it could get expensive.
And if you decide 4 years later, enough, you're going to do it on your own, you got to read the wording, because they have to send you a UFOC within 72 hours if you're interested. And
what's that?
Uniform franchise offering. I think it's BS. They just send you this crap. They're supposed to show you franchises that are in, so you can contact them, which are not going to show you ones that are failing. So it's kind of useless. Your best bet is to do a search for them, or do a search for scam, put the franchise name, contact those owners and find out what they really think about the franchise, but how much money people pay. But in there, you'll find when your time is up with your franchisee, whether it's 4 years, whatever, you can renew. But the bottom line is, you want to be able to walk away from it, keep your business name. Well, if you go with a business name that's part of that franchise name, typically you can't walk away with that name.
Right.
So then you're looking at branding your name again, and 100 other things that you don't want to deal with. So either get that wording out of there if you go a franchise route, or don't go with them.
Gotcha. Good to know. So really make sure there's going to be some kind of benefit there. But, between your book, this is what we do here at Podnuts. We give advice to computer repair guys. So you might not need to go that route. So, all right. Well, is that right? Would you say, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be hard pressed for me to go that route again, only because of everything that I know. But
okay, good. All right. Well, it's all in the book. Everything we just mentioned. I mean, we just touched on little bits and pieces. It's all in the book. You guys bought it. I hope you're enjoying it. We're going to wrap it up here. Dan, anything you want to say to the readers, the buyers of your book, and anything extra? Last comments?
Like Steve said, everything's in the book. Documents are provided. Bottom line is, businesses. You got to get them. Got to have a game plan for them, or don't go into business because it ain't going to work.
There you go, guys. Take the advice. Well, Dan, thank you very much for doing this interview. It's always fun chatting with you, and I'm sure the guys got a lot out of it.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you guys.